Hey, what's up, guys? It's Angel Santowski. I'm back with another UFC prediction video. This time, UFC Fight Night, Cejudo versus Song. This event goes down Saturday, February 22nd, 2025. Prelims start at 6 p.m. It's going down from Seattle, Washington. Climate Pledge Arena, ESPN Plus. Great main event, great card. And we do have betting odds released for this card. We're on Fight Odds right now, so I will be giving you my predictions while also checking the odds for the fights. So let's get into it, guys. First prelim fight, Fili against Miguel Costa. Featherweight fight. Costa, he is coming off a win. Trains at Shootbox, one of the Shootbox gyms down in Brazil. 28 years old. 21-7 record. Coming off a win over Nurembiki. Lost to Garcia before that, beat Austin Lingo. So he's 2-2 in the UFC. Going up against a guy that's been around the UFC for a very long time, Fili. Up and down career. Wins one, loses one type of thing. 34 years old. So he's a little older. Beat Cub Swanson by split decision. Cub looked really good in his last fight against Billy Q. I'm going to side with Fili here. We don't have odds for this fight yet, I believe. But my pick will be Fili. Ricky Simone against Javid Basharat. Man, Simone just hasn't looked right since he lost the Song in that main event. Almost 2 years ago. He took a lot of damage. Eventually, Song got a 5th round TKO finish over him. Losses over Mario Batista, Vinicius Oliveira. We know how good those fighters are. But it's been a long time since this guy's won, man. It's been 3.5 years since Ricky Simone has notched a UFC win. And he's going up against a guy in Javid Basharat, who I believe is coming off a loss to Elamane Zahabi. So, yep, that was almost a year ago as well. I'm going to side with Basharat here. I mean, again, not a whole lot of confidence in this fight. Basharat is currently at minus 218 on DraftKings. So the value is on Simone here. If you're going to bet this fight, I would say my pick will be Basharat. No bet on it, but again, Basharat will be my pick. Mornesis Bukauskas against Rafael Cerqueira. Cerqueira coming off that knockout loss to Aslan, who I think is also on this card. Got knocked out in the first round in Abu Dhabi. Bukauskas, I mean, we kind of know where his level is in the UFC. I'm glad he was able to make it back to the UFC. I was excited when this guy made his debut in 2020 during the COVID times. But he hasn't really had a whole lot of success. I mean, he has picked up some wins recently ever since he made his way back to the UFC. Wins over Tyson Pedro, Zach Pauga, who I think was a good win. Lost to Vitor Petrino. So, I mean, he's kind of a lower level light heavyweight here. But again, let's see how this fight plays out. I'm going to pick him for the win. We haven't really seen Cerqueira outside of the first round a lot in his career. So I'm going to side with Bukauskas. Adam Fujit against Islam Dulatov. Dulatov, I think he's coming off an amazing finish on the Contender Series. Beat Vanillo on Tune's elbow round 1. He's got a lot of finishes on his record, man. So Adam Fujit, he's been around the UFC. He's coming off a win over Josh Quinlan. Don't really remember that fight. Quinlan, I think, has been released since then. Lost to Mellet. Beat Yusaku Kinoshita. Lost to Morales. So he's 2-2 in the UFC. I'm going to side with Islam Dulatov to get his first UFC win here. Ian Cutelaba against Ibo Aslan. Cutelaba, he picked up a win in his last fight. A lot of people were on Aslan in that fight, but Cutelaba showed some veteran savvy, used takedowns, stayed away from Aslan's power. Fought a smart fight, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that here. I think Aslan's probably going to catch him and knock him out. He's got 2 knockout wins in the UFC. UFC's giving him a winnable fight here. But again, it'll be real interesting if this fight gets out of the first round. Dulatova's got the 3-round cardio. Aslan, we don't know. You know, he did go into the 3rd round, I believe, with Turkshai. But again, we'll see what a Kudalaba, who I'm sure is going to have a heavy wrestling game plan. But I'm going to side with Aslan here. Ketlen Vieira against Meishi Chiasson. Again, one of these two women may be fighting for the women's bantamweight belt soon enough. I don't think either have fought for it before. Vieira coming off a decision loss to Kayla Harrison. Harrison did not look impressive, especially for that price tag that she had in that fight. Ketlen Vieira, you know, she's been around the UFC for a while, man. I want to say since 2016. You know, so she's been around a while. She's held her own. She's definitely in the top 10 of that weight class. Chiasson, again, it's really hard to predict what you're going to see from her fight to fight. Watching that Mayra Bueno Silva fight, I did think Mayra Bueno Silva took the first round. Then she kind of got, you know, put on the bottom position, I believe, in that second round, and then the stoppage happened. You know, so this is kind of weird, because I know Bueno Silva won that first round, and it kind of seemed like it was going to keep going that way, but Chiasson landed some elbows and stopped the fight. Chiasson absolutely dominated Kinazad, who I believe has been released or retired. I believe she's released because I think she signed with GFL. So it's really hard to predict what you're going to see from Chiasson. Ketlen Vieira is a tough fighter. I don't think she's going to be punked out by anybody. Let's look at the betting odds for this fight. Chiasson is a plus 110. So again, Vieira is a slight favorite. I am going to shy with Chiasson here, but again, it's not going to surprise me one bit if Vieira wins this fight. Curtis Blaydes against Rizvan Kuniev. So Blaydes goes from heavyweight title fight, co-main event against Tom Aspinall in London, to fighting a UFC newcomer in Kuniev. It's just kind of weird here. So, I mean, to beat Curtis Blaydes, man, you got to be at the very top of that weight class, man. And you got to have serious power to get Blaydes out of there, man. Because Blaydes, he's got the cardio, he's got the wrestling, he's got heavy hands himself. Rizvan Kuniev, 19-fight winning streak, 13-2 overall record. So that must go back into his amateur career, I imagine. Yeah, it does. But so he's coming off some wins on the Contender Series, Eagle FCs before that. He was on the Contender Series before in 2021. Don't know exactly what happened. The UFC didn't sign him. But I'm going to side with Blaydes here, man. I mean, maybe Kuniev springs the upset here, but I mean, you got to be a special talent to get Blaydes out of there, to beat Blaydes. So I am going to side with Curtis Blaydes here to pick up the win. Gene Silva against Melsik Baghdasaryan. We haven't seen a whole lot from Melsik lately. I don't feel like we've seen him since that August card a couple years ago. Yeah, it has been. Last fight, July 2023. It's been a good year and a half, man. He beat Tucker Lutz. I don't know if that fight was... I'm not sure. No, he lost to Kulabau in Australia or whatever. But, again, we haven't seen a whole lot from this guy. I think the UFC's pretty much given up their hype of this dude. They're giving him a really tough matchup in everybody's favorite fighter, in Gene Silva. This guy fights anybody. Stepped up to 55 and beat Drew Dober in his last fight, if I can remember. That was back in July. Beat Charles Jourdain before that, and he just looks so much bigger than Jourdain. We've seen Jourdain. Since that fight, Jourdain has cut down to bantamweight. So Jourdain is not even fighting at featherweight anymore. And, I mean, Gene Silva just manhandled him in that fight. Beat Drew Dober, and that was a back-and-forth fight. But Gene Silva pulls through, gets the TKO finish. And I'm going to side with Gene Silva here, man. I think we see a pretty quick knockout here from Gene Silva. So my pick will be Gene Silva here. Brendan Allen against Anthony Hernandez. Very impressive what Anthony Hernandez did to Michel Pereira in his last fight. Very impressive. Complete 5-round domination fight. We haven't seen Hernandez go 5 rounds complete domination, man. Unbelievable. Again, I've kind of doubted this guy's career. I've doubted his rise. Picked against him in numerous fights. But, man, very credit to him. In that last fight, he really impressed. Brendan Allen, I think he lost a 29-28 decision to Imavov. He's probably fought the better competition out of the two. Or they fought, you know, probably the slightly better competition. I mean, Hernandez is a big favorite in this fight, man. But I think the value's on Allen. I can see this being, I mean, they're two good grapplers, man. So, I mean, is Hernandez going to ragdoll Allen like he did Pereira? I don't think so. Maybe Hernandez pulls it out, but, man, I just think the value's on Allen here, man. I think these guys are closely matched up. And I don't know why Allen is this big of a dog, but I'm going to side with Hernandez. But, again, I would not be betting him. And it will not surprise me one bit if Allen pulls off the win here. Edson Barboza against Steve Garcia. So this will be Edson Barboza's first 3-round fight in a couple fights here. He's headlined a lot of UFC events, man. He's done the UFC a lot of solids throughout his career. In my opinion, he should be a UFC Hall of Famer, man. For the fights and wars that this guy has put on. I mean, he's been in the UFC since, what, 2007? No, take that back. 2010. So he's been in the UFC for a while, man. A lot of wins, a lot of losses. Again, he's fighting at featherweight now. This guy used to be big for 55. Don't know how he makes 45. But he's coming off a loss to Lerone Murphy, which Lerone Murphy dominated in that main event. So we haven't seen Barboza since, I want to say, last May. Garcia, this guy keeps winning, man. Definitely turned his UFC career around on a 5-fight winning streak. I didn't really think this guy was going to pan out in the UFC, but he has. He's looked really good. Wins over Chase Hooper. We know how good he's been looking at 55. Shailin Nurembeki, Costa, Wu Choi, Kyle Nelson. And I thought Nelson kind of caught him a little bit, but Garcia hung through there and ended up getting Nelson out of there. So it's going to be real interesting here, man. We haven't, you know, I'm going to side with Garcia here. Younger guy, he's got a lot of power. But it won't surprise me if Barboza pulls this off, man. He's a veteran savvy guy. He's got power of his own. He does kind of have he is chinnier in my opinion. So maybe Garcia gets him out of there. But, you know, I could see Barboza taking the decision or possibly getting a finish himself. But my pick will be Garcia. Dominic Cruz against Rob Font. Really hard to pick against Rob Font here, especially after his last fight, man. The training with Zahabi or whatever really looked good, man. He looked phenomenal against Kyler Phillips. That's probably the best Rob Font we've seen in a long time. Landing takedowns of his own, great cardio. I mean, just absolutely put it on Kyler Phillips. Dominic Cruz, very tricky fighter to fight. Has not fought in 2.5 years. He said this is going to be his last fight. When fighters announce that, it typically does not go well for him in their farewell fight. He's 39 years old. Very sad to see this guy hanging up. 24-4 record. Has not fought a whole lot in the past decade. But this guy's a legend, man. Hall of Famer. Always exciting to see him fight. Just he didn't fight often enough, man. But when he did, it was always wanted to watch. Always wanted to tune in. My hat's off to the great career of Dominic Cruz. And these guys are both similar in age, man. I think Cruz, you know, he's got a fight that he can potentially win here. 39 years old. Font's 37. Cruz, we know how he's stick and moves with his stand-up. He's got great takedowns, great cardio. And he hasn't fought often, but he was winning that Marlon Vera fight. He was beating Marlon Vera up until Vera landed that head kick as Cruz was moving out of range. And it just kind of stunned Cruz, knocked him down. But, again, Cruz was winning that fight. So I think he can take his hat off to that. Was landing more volume. So I just see this being a close fight. I don't see Font getting him out of there. I don't see Cruz getting Font out of there. It's a 3-round fight. I got to side with Dominic Cruz with these odds here. Plus 152. Maybe Dominic gets one more win before he hangs it up. So my pick will be Dominic Cruz. Main event, Cejudo against Song. We know the type of knockout power Cejudo Yadong Song has, or Song Yadong has. Coming off a loss. That was the Peter Yan. 29-28 Yan in that fight. I think Song won that first round, and then Yan kind of just dominated the last two. Wins over Chris Gutierrez, Ricky Simone. So he's headlined a couple. He's main evented a couple cards himself. Well, I want to say 3 cards himself now. Destroyed Marlon Moraes. You know, Arce. I mean, he's got a lot of nice wins here. He can't beat the top echelon of the division, but this guy's definitely got potential. Younger fighter here for sure. 27 years old. Cejudo's got to be 37, 38. So the UFC really hasn't done Triple C any favors lately. Losses to Merab, which was a year ago. Lost to Eljo before that, split decision. It was a title fight coming back after 3 years. I just think with the odds, we've seen some big line movement yesterday coming on Yadong Song. I want to say he was around minus 200. And the line moved all the way to minus 260. I mean, it's still early. I think people think Cejudo's out of there. You know, he's older. How is he going to win this fight? But I don't really see Song finishing Cejudo. I mean, Cejudo, I don't really know if the guy wants to train as hard. I mean, I do question his cardio a little bit. He did gas out against Merab, but it seems like everybody gasses out against Merab. So, and he did take 1 round from Merab. So, maybe the 5 rounds does favor Song here. I just think from a value perspective and an odds perspective, you got to take Cejudo here, man. You're getting a former bantamweight champion, Olympian at plus 228 odds currently, plus 220 odds. We're still a month away from fight time. I think you have to look at Cejudo here for a pick. I don't think you can bet Song here in this spot. So I am going to side with Henry Cejudo to somehow pull this win off, probably by decision. He's got to utilize those leg kicks, hit takedowns, just really keep Song guessing, man. You know, but Cejudo does have serviceable stand-up, but he can't allow himself to keep getting rocked by Song here on the feet. But I will take Cejudo for the pick. So, guys, my picks: Cejudo, Cruz, Garcia, Hernandez, Silva, Blaydes, Chiasson, Aslan, Dulatov, Bukauskas, Basharat, and Fili.